Good evening, everybody. It's 9:30 p.m. on Halloween on the East Coast and 6:30 p.m. on Halloween on the West Coast. James, if that is you, how are you doing this fine All Hallows Eve celebration evening?
It is indeed me, All Hallows Eve, back at you. Uh,
So, are you fighting the plague over there right now? Is the plague? There's a plague outbreak in California and right now.
well, just being extra safe tonight,
I
you know.
see. I see.
Uh,
You can never tell. Me, I am going as horror icon David S. Pumpkins, the most terrifying character ever created from the sick imaginations of humanity. Um, and yeah, this is sort of my I'm too lazy to put together a real costume, so I'm going to bust out my $20 store bought David Pumpkins costume.
that's fair, because this thing was only 20 bucks too.
Well,
You
good.
spent,
I'm glad we're
yeah,
putting the same amount of effort into it.
yeah, pretty much. So it all works out.
Ironically, my Colin Robinson costume, which I went as for Halloween this year, that cost less because I just less than $20 because I just went to Goodwill and
Mm.
just found all this random stuff, the beige clothing. The funny thing is I found this amazing cardigan with like elbow patches. I mean, the whole
Oh,
nine. I don't know
wow.
why someone would get rid of it. It fits pretty well. I mean, it's a little bit loose, but it fits pretty well. Um, I keep threatening to just add it into my regular repertoire, actually.
Why not? Yeah, why not? Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of crazy. You lucked out getting all beige. Beige
Yeah.
color. I don't know. Maybe it's more common than seems. But to get that outfit, Colin Robinson, because it's so plain, it feels like it's almost too unique in today's.
Colorful fashion landscape.
Yeah,
I know. No, I mean, I think it's just, it might be exactly why it was so easy to come by, is nobody wants beige anymore. Beige
huh,
and tan and earth colors.
yeah.
But no, that one was a good one. And then I think we've talked about this, but for Dragon Con, which is an Atlanta convention, I went as Deirdre Beaudeirdre from Everything Everywhere All at Once. That was quite the costume. Turned out very well. I have gotten nothing but compliments on it, and all credit goes to my friend Jen, who actually did all of the hard work on it. All I did was buy the costume pieces, so and then I was the model. But it
Yeah,
was
you got an assortment of costumes this year already.
it's interesting. I've talked to friends and how before I discovered improv and performance and that kind of stuff. I mean, my closet was empty. I mean, it was just only clothes that I wore all the time, right?
Yeah.
Um, and now I've got like an entire side of my closet devoted to just costume stuff because I've just sort of accumulated it. I've got a turtleneck that I bought for one play that I was in. I've got a fake axe in the corner. I've got this thing. I've got my Deirdre Beaudeirdre outfit. I've got, Colin Robinson. I've got a couple other pieces that I picked up when I was playing a robot for one performance. It was just crazy, man. Just crazy.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. You're stocked full of Halloween costumes for the next decade now at this point, right?
I'm working on it. Yeah, mix and matching, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, what are we going to be working on tonight with you in that insane getup?
Yeah. This is gonna
Can
be this.
can you even do anything? I mean, if you need to take it off, you have my permission.
Yeah, I think I will. When I go small, I might. I have a new appreciation for plague doctors and them wearing masks because, like, right now, my eye holes are like all fogging up as I talk.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, like they had to really work through some stuff just to deal with patients and stuff like that. So
I mean, I think it's
maybe,
even funnier that they thought that it was just a distance thing, right? As long as you keep this distance from me, you'll
yeah,
be fine.
yeah, yeah. This little beak thing is supposed to be just the right amount to,
hmm
yeah. But yeah, I probably will take this off a little bit because it's interesting. I mean, I could definitely draw and stuff. There's a part of me that wants the challenge of like, okay, I'm gonna draw with this on and everything. But really, why? I mean, we've gotten to this point now. We're celebrating Halloween good enough. So yeah, maybe I will just remove this thing now. The gag is done.
Right, we've officially made the gag official. I don't know where I was going with that. I sort of abandoned shipped pretty fast on that one.
All right, I'll share my screen and get to work on some stuff tonight. So, last week we kind of left off with talking with Jeff, and then I was doing some stuff with Mitchell. So I'll keep going with this for tonight,
Okay.
and just got some new poses and stuff like that while we just kind of chat for the next half hour or so.
Sounds good. Yeah, last week we were actually off. We were with Jeff 2 weeks ago.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I admit I took it off because I had a couple of friends who hadn't seen Everything Everywhere All at Once, and I wanted them to see it. And Monday was the only night I could get everybody in the same room at the same time. So um, I admit that I took the night off so I could watch a movie that I've already seen 5 times. I admit it freely.
Yeah, and it was well received, right? Everybody liked it for the most part.
um, yeah. My friend Kevin liked it, but he was relatively mum on his overall like sort of impressions. He said he liked it
Okay.
though.
Hmm.
My friend Jay really dug it. He plays Mayor McFlint in our little cartoon here. Um, it got him so excited he wanted to like go back and make a movie. Like he was super excited. I want to get back behind the camera and do something. It just really excited him. Jeff didn't care for it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much his exact words were, "He didn't get it, really."
Yeah, I don't think that really surprised anybody. Uh,
Hmm.
I appreciate his willingness to indulge me. I think his the, the best compliment I got from him was, it definitely see why it's a movie that you would like. I think that was the best compliment I got from him about that.
That's pretty funny. I mean, but I mean, is that his in his wheelhouse anyway? Does he like sci-fi movies and stuff? It's hard to.
I don't. Jeff says he likes movies. I don't think he does actually at all. He claims it, but then I don't think he does.
Yeah.
I mean, he
Well.
likes Weekend at Bernie's, right? Like Weekend at Bernie's is legitimately one of his favorite movies of all time.
Hmm.
If that,
Yeah.
so, and he loves the Back to the Future trilogy. Much respect there. He loves the Naked Gun movies. Again, much respect there. I think actually now that we're talking about it, I think Jeff really digs farce. I think he
Oh.
likes farce a lot. Um,
Okay.
so I'm curious if I showed him because I don't know that he's seen any of Mel Brooks's films. I wonder if I showed him like Young Frankenstein or Blazing Saddles or High Anxiety or even Robin Hood Men in Tights or Dracula Dead and Loving. That although those would be a stretch. I wonder if he'd dig those. I mean, they dig deep in the popular culture milieu, which he's not as steeped in as you and I are. But they're both. But the movies are generally speaking so broad. I can't imagine him not not appreciating it. So maybe I'll show him those movies. Maybe he'll dig those.
Yeah. Or what's the one with Charlie Sheen? No, not Charlie Sheen. Ben Stiller and Robert Downey Jr.
Oh,
Tropic Thunder.
Tropic Thunder. He likes that movie. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
talking about it, yeah, I definitely think Jeff is a farce kind of guy.
yeah. So he
Yeah.
liked Airplane.
Oh yeah, loved Airplane, Top Gun, or not Top Gun. Uh, uh, Top Secret, right? Like the
Yeah.
Zucker Brothers movies too. I think he'd
Uh-huh.
really dig. So yeah, I think we sort of were circling it, and I think we nailed it. So Jeff, if you watch this, I know what genre of movie you like now, and I know what to recommend to you.
I
So
mean, do you have that pressure though to entertain guests? Like you have the most
always, yeah, I always,
really?
yeah. I want to give people recommendations that they're gonna like. I take it as a personal failing
Oh man.
if I recommend something and people don't like it because I like trying to listen to them and kind of get a vibe for what they enjoy, right? And go, oh,
Yeah.
okay. And so when I recommend something, they're like, yeah, that was right up my alley. And I'm like, yes, nailed it. And then when they don't like it, I'm like, damn,
You
missed it.
bummed.
it
Yeah, yeah. I kind of get that sense sometimes. Like, we talk about video games or a TV show, and if I'm not feeling as much as you, then yeah, I definitely get that sense of disappointment in your text. Like you feel bad. Like like it's not a big deal, man. I mean, okay, you know.
I
Even tonight, I was gonna bring this up too. I went out and got Bayonetta 3 to
Mm-hmm.
celebrate Halloween, sort of, and kind of play it a little bit. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so far, I mean, for you, I know you really like the game a lot, right? I mean, you're on board.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Um,
I am. I'm enjoying it. My mid play. Admittedly, I'm only on like chapter 7 or chapter 8.
okay.
Right now, Bayonetta 2 is without a doubt still my favorite.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Even that, okay with you. Okay. Won't you have chapter? Okay. Um, I just finished prologue and I'm into, I guess, chapter one.
yeah, it's sort of like there's like two prologues. There's like a
Okay.
prelude and then a prologue and then
Oh,
chapter 1, right? So the prelude is that really brief intro sequence where you see Bayonetta in her original costume bite the dust.
yes.
And
Yeah.
then the prologue is on the cruise ship. And
Yeah.
then chapter 1 is what happens after the cruise ship.
Okay. So I'm on chapter one.
Okay.
So I've done the prologue. I'm sorry, the whatever the brief intro, Bayonetta running around and dealing with that monstrosity, and then yeah, her on the cruise ship and dancing around and doing all kinds of stuff. It's yeah, I'm trying to avoid any general spoilers, but the new mechanic they've introduced to it is pretty cool. I like it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, so far it's too early for me to say one thing or another, one way or another. It's great. Just like kind of pretty much what I expected gameplay wise, stuff like that. It's pretty nice. So far so good. I like it.
Good. All right. Well, let's hope that momentum keeps up. You expressed concerns about the Viola character, and
Yeah.
I'm chapters in into chapter 7 now, and she's only been a playable character once to this point.
Okay. All right.
Uh,
That's
yeah. So it's still, I mean, at least to this point, it's still Bayonetta. It's still her game. Like there, there's a couple of games. Like I mean, I think the classic bait and switch was Metal Gear Solid 2,
hmm
where you start
well.
playing as Solid Snake, and then you beat that very very brief boat sequence, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden, wait, now I'm playing as Raiden the whole time.
Yeah. He was annoying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of that bait and switch at all. But and then by the time I got to, I don't know how you felt, but I gave it one more chance with Metal Gear 3, and then at that point I stopped halfway through. I was like, yeah, I'm not feeling this at all. It's too
Hmm.
much dialogue, too much weirdness, and I can't keep up anymore. The first Metal Gear is still my favorite one out of the whole series.
Yeah, I Metal Gear Solid grew on me, but yeah,
hmm
that was the point at which I felt Hideo Kojima was just a frustrated Hollywood director, and
Yeah,
and I just kind of was like, dude, just go try to get financing and make a movie because you're not really making a video game anymore.
yeah,
It got really frustrating at some points where you'd walk. I mean, literally walk through a door, get a cutscene, walk through another door, get another 15-minute long cutscene, and I'm like,
yeah,
why did you even make me walk through the door? Why didn't you just keep, why didn't you just play the next cutscene? This just doesn't make any sense.
yeah.
But despite all that, I really liked the villains in Metal Gear Solid 3.
Uh-huh. Yep, absolutely. They were pretty funny, and pretty interesting, to fight against and all that. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, they were all fun, but nothing. It's kind of weird. I don't know if anything will ever rival Psycho Mantis and the whole Sector
No,
Control
yeah,
thing.
that was
You know,
so clever. Yeah,
yeah, it was, and I was like hoping to get that next, what's he gonna do next kind of thing. I
it
never
never
really
really
happened.
reached that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, the
it
first
was
Metal
just
Gear Solid was super meta. Like there was the one codec channel that the only clue about what it was like check the back of the box, and it literally meant flip the disc holder over and see that
yeah.
one of the screen grabs on the back of the box was the channel for the codec. And I'm like,
Oh, jeez,
yeah, and
that's
it's crazy like how meta they got, right? And they
yeah,
used to
that's
do
pretty
things
fun.
like that all the time on the X-Men game. Well, not all the time, but they used to do things like that on the X-Men game on the Genesis. It got to the point where you're fighting Morbo, right? Morbo.
hmm
And the game actually says, we have to reboot the system. Press the reset button.
Oh yeah,
And you
yeah.
actually had to press the reset button on the Genesis to make the game continue. And it's just like I mean, sometimes they do really clever stuff like that, but less so as technology's gotten slicker and more streamlined. There's less opportunity to play with the
Yeah,
hardware in the same way, right?
yeah, you're never gonna have that kind of moment again. I don't think anymore. It's just too. I mean, yeah, it's just there might be some potential. Like, remember, I don't know. Did you ever play through? I remember this because I had Eternal Darkness on my GameCube. Then I sold my copy to you at work, and I'm not sure if you played it before
Mm-hmm.
I sold it to you, or if you just wanted a copy or something like that. I can't remember, but that game was a lot of fun to kind of like. It kind of did some of that meta kind of stuff. Remember the fly on the screen,
Oh
for
yeah,
example?
yeah, yeah. No, it was great.
Yeah.
It played with you so much. This is not a joke. I was in the final boss battle,
Uh
and the
huh.
game hard locked, and
Yeah.
I thought it was one of the gags, and so I
Oh
sat there for
no.
way longer than I would have otherwise, thinking
Oh.
that it's just the game screwing with me again, and then I'm like, oh wait, oh no, it actually crashed. Like the game actually
Yeah.
crashed.
Your insanity meter was probably fine, and it didn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah, no, there was just some weird ones. I remember like one of them you're walking down a hall and your head falls off, and then when you pick it
Oh
up,
yeah.
it goes to the center of the screen and rotates, and then a narrator recites the Hamlet soliloquy to be or not to be. And you're like, what is going on, right? I mean, like
Yeah. That's a.
some of them were just so over the top.
Yeah. Yeah. But
And
yeah, it was a yeah. That's another good one. They really had a lot of fun with it. I'm not sure who the game director was for that,
Dennis
or if they
Dyack
kept.
from
Oh,
Silicon
okay.
Knights, and he unfortunately um, sort of like kind of went crazy a little bit. It
Just like his
ruined the
name.
company. So it's a long history. There was this game called Two Human,
Okay.
which was kind of a weird cyberpunk fantasy sci-fi retelling of Norse mythology, right?
Okay.
And it was originally supposed to be, I think, a GameCube game, and
Mhm.
ultimately came out on the Xbox 360.
Huh.
So it was in development since forever and a day.
Okay.
And the first E3 that it premiered, it was extremely not performative, janky, lots of frame rate stuttering, yada 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 yada. It got a lot of bad press, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
he blamed it on Unreal 4 or 3 at the time. That's what they were using to build the game.
Okay.
Well, he took this personally, and after the game launched to middling reviews at best, although I personally think it was a diamond in the rough, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Once you get past like the rough edges,
Hmm.
um, um, the game came out to middling reviews, didn't sell well. Microsoft kind of canceled their contract with Silicon Knights after that. He sued Epic, saying that the reason the game was bad is because their tools were so bad. But it was ridiculous because everybody makes games using Unreal 3. Like this wasn't like
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
experimental technology.
Yeah.
And so Epic, because they have all of the money in the universe, countersued. So apparently somehow they got um, access to Silicon Knights code base, and maybe it was because they had to submit it as a part of the lawsuit. I don't know, but when they
Hmm.
did a review of it, Silicon Knights technically claims that they had to rewrite their own graphics engine
Oh no.
to make the game
And
work, and actually what it turned out to be is this heavily cannibalized version of Unreal 3. And so Epic countersued and won. Not only
wow.
did Dennis Dyack lose his lawsuit against Epic, Epic won their countersuit against Dennis Dyack.
Wow.
And it destroyed Silicon Knights. He ended
Wow.
up owing a ton of money to the government of Canada because Canada has a lot of tax subsidies for the arts and things of that nature.
Hmm.
And basically ruined his career.
Wow. So
Now,
now it's.
yeah, now interesting sort of epilogue to that story. Years later, I was working on a game called Murdered Soul Suspect, which I think I've mentioned on this podcast before. And we happened to get a co marketing opportunity on the Will Wheaton and Felicia Day did a like I think they still do. They have like a geek website with they do like live streams and YouTube videos, and I don't know if it's still maintained by them or if it even still exists, but it was kind of like the new hotness around the time Murder Soul Suspect was coming out and back in like 2012 2014.
Mm-hmm.
And it just so happens that one of the other people who were there was a couple of games, and one of the other games that was at this was Dennis Diak's new game. He sort of was trying to rise from the ashes. He was trying to do a spiritual successor to Eternal Darkness.
Okay.
I played the demo, loved it, thought it was fantastic. Really got back to the heart of what made Eternal Darkness what it was, with just a much better graphics. And instead of it really was leaning more into the Lovecraftian notion of the Elder Gods. So it was much more Cthulhu-esque or whatever, than Eternal Darkness was. Thought it had a lot of potential. He was doing a Kickstarter to try to get this thing off the ground, and I talked to him about it, and I was like, tell me what happened. Like, you seem really open. We're both game developers here. I loved Eternal Darkness. I loved Too Human. I'm really curious about what happened. And he told me his whole perspective on the story, and he basically took responsibility for everything. He took it too personally. He was too invested. He bit off more than he could chew. He thought he had him. And when he lost, it was, it was so devastating for him. Like, he left the industry for a really, really long time.
Mm-hmm.
Finally kind of came to his senses, calmed down, recognized that he made a mistake, and now he was trying to rebuild and start over again. So he founded a new company, which obviously didn't go anywhere, but and was trying to get back into gamers' good graces. And this thing that he was doing with Will Wheaton's and Felicia Day's marketing arm or whatever it was an attempt to go, hey, I've learned my lesson. I still do make great games. Yeah. Why don't you join me? And so he launched a Kickstarter. And the interesting thing is he admitted to me that he felt it was a risk putting his name on it because he was afraid that his name was still so toxic that just seeing his name would turn people off. And I think he was right, because the Kickstarter failed. And the game ultimately got relegated to the dustbin of history.
That's a kind of a bummer. I mean, idealistically speaking, it's always, the thing is he had a lot of he obviously had humility.
I mean, I got the sense that he wasn't lying to me. I got the sense that he was legitimately he had a lot of words. Anyway, he seemed legitimate in his realization that he was in the wrong. He didn't seem to be faking it to me. Like, he was like, yeah, I screwed up. I got my britches got too big for me. I thought my shit didn't stink. I bit off more than I could chew, and when it was all said and done, I went too far, right? Yeah.
It would have been neat to see a new sequel to Eternal Darkness. I mean, it was a great game.
Yeah, I know. I still love Eternal Darkness. I mean, it was really, really fun. I was super sad when, and I'm starting to wonder now too if like Diak's personality is what ultimately got Silicon, because Nintendo broke off their relationship with Silicon Knights, even though Silicon Knights did the remake of Metal Gear Solid for the GameCube, which, in my opinion, is still the definitive version of that game.
Oh, really? You like the Metal Gear Solid version on the GameCube? They did it a bundle, didn't they? Do the Twin Snakes with it or something?
The Twin Snakes was what it was called, yeah. And it basically took all of the gameplay mechanics from Metal Gear Solid 2 and put it on the GameCube. So, the original Metal Gear Solid, you couldn't go into first person to shoot.
Yeah.
They added that feature in. They used the Metal Gear Solid 2 engine, so there was a lot of destructibility, a lot of dynamism to the maps. And so it really it took the story of Metal Gear Solid 1 with the graphics of Metal Gear Solid 2 and the gameplay quality of life improvements of Metal Gear Solid 2.
Wow, it's like they pretty much remade the game from the ground,
Mm-hmm.
almost from the ground up. For
Mm-hmm.
now, it wasn't Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2 together though. It was just
No,
Metal Gear.
just Metal Gear Solid 1. Yeah.
All right.
And it was
Yeah,
great.
I was.
I mean, it was great. It was my favorite version of that game, hands down.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I played on the PlayStation, so that was my only experience with it. But I remember seeing it for the GameCube, and I was kind of confused. Like, what is this? Is this a hybrid of
Mm.
1 and 2 together, or yeah? So I never bothered. After playing Metal Gear Solid 2, I was like, yeah, I don't know if I want to play it again. I need a little break, and
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
No, but it
Huh.
was it was great. But they did that, and they did Eternal Darkness, and I think that they did one more game for Nintendo. But my understanding is from a few people I know who worked at Nintendo at the time is that Diac's ego was starting to get too big for its britches by the end of Eternal Darkness, and Nintendo was like, no, no, we're done, and cut him loose, cut the whole company loose.
Where did where did he derive his ego from Eternal Darkness? Just because how it was received? Like, I mean, it wasn't like a blockbuster game,
Yeah,
right?
no, I mean, some people when they get some modicum of success, when they get some modicum of praise, it just immediately goes to their head, right? I
Yeah,
mean, you see this in Hollywood, I think, most often, um, where a director will make some amazing thing and then just think that he can do anything
yeah, and
and
then
then
yeah,
goes nowhere. But you see in games too. I think Cliff Bleszinski is a classic example. American McGee is another really good example of these. John Romero, these auteurs, right, who produce something that is, at the very least, critically regarded, if not commercially regarded, and then think that there's some kind of gift to video game making, and then they just never produce anything as
wait.
good ever again.
So who's Cliff? Who'd you say? Cliff?
Cliff Bleszinski did Unreal, and then what he really became known for was Gears of War.
Okay, now I get it.
And
All
then,
right.
yeah, American McGee did Alice,
Yep.
and he never really did anything after that game. A couple of Alice
Okay.
sequels, Bad Day LA, and I can't remember anything else that he's done, and none of them were particularly good.
John
Um,
Romero.
and then uh,
John Romero.
John Romero, obviously level designer on Doom, phenomenal
Mhm.
level designer. But then when he tried to run his own company, he didn't know what to do. He was just not a leader.
Yeah.
And I think it was what Iron Forge, or I think that was his next company. But whatever company he founded to build Daikatana,
Okay.
and it was a complete disaster. Yeah.
Hmm.
So
Well, that's a shame. Yeah, I mean, I mean, like I said, I mean, Eternal Darkness to me, if you have a GameCube, I mean, that's a must. It's a must-have game for that system to play at least, once. Um, and even to this day, there hasn't been a game really. I haven't seen any game that has. I don't know. Maybe you've seen it, but I haven't seen that many games that have an insanity meter and play with stuff outside of the that do things out of the box. Outside of the
yeah.
box. So,
Well, I
like that game.
mean, like there's not like an explicit sanity meter, but I mean, the Silent Hill games are always trying to play with that kind of
Oh yeah.
stuff. Silent Hill 2 obviously is a classic of horror gaming. Another game that I think was highly underrated personally, and I think part of it was because it was on the Wii, was Silent Hill Shattered Memories, which was a remake of um, the original Silent Hill. I mean, like very, very a complete reinterpretation of it. Same basic plot, but very, very little design similarities. And that did a
Hmm.
lot of crazy stuff with it. So much so that the decisions that you made over the course of the game, statute of limitations is over here, so I'm not afraid of spoiling
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
At the end, it's revealed that your character is like retelling his encounter in the game
Mhm.
to a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist has been making a profile of you the entire time. And so, as the credits roll, you get to see the profile that the psychiatrist has made of all of your choices in the game. It's really cool. It's really clever. Because some of them
Huh.
are like, yeah, you're right. That's pretty dead on. That is why I made that choice.
Wait, and this is for Silent Hill 2, you said?
No,
This is it?
this is called Silent Hill Shattered Memories,
Yeah, the
and it's
memories.
a very loose remake of the original Silent Hill. And
Yeah.
it was on the Wii, and I don't know if it ever ported anywhere else. Maybe it did, but I played it on the Wii. and
So,
it was, I mean, it was phenomenal. They basically removed all of the combat. I think the closest analogy by today's standards in terms of what the gameplay was like is Amnesia, where your
okay.
only recourse to defeating monsters is to hide, basically, right?
Mhm.
And so there wasn't a lot of combat in the game. It was mostly about fleeing and solving puzzles. Um, but some of the puzzle design was absolutely inspired, especially given how well they utilized the nunchuck controllers on the Wii.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, wow, that was a deep dive, deep cut of video game history there.
Yeah, I mean, I played the original Silent Hill, so I don't remember even having an insanity meter in it. But
No, it didn't, and the remake didn't either. But it just
okay,
sort of like the larger uh, the larger attitude of screwing with the player, right?
hmm
And
yeah,
doing crazy
got it.
things. Like nothing.
Yeah.
I've never seen explicitly. I know that there was another game that kind of had a sanity meter, and it was recent too, and I think it was a first person shooter,
hmm
but it wasn't. It never. I never played it, and it didn't, frankly, seem that particularly good. Um, but there's been a couple of games that have played around with an insanity meter, but nothing, in my memory at least, quite like Eternal Darkness.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a pretty special game, um, in video game history
Mm-hmm.
to this day. Even like that came out what 20 years ago at this point. I don't
God,
know.
I was living in. This is before I moved down to L.A.
Is that when it came out? Really?
Yeah,
Before your life movie?
yeah. So it had to be like 2000. I'm gonna
Four,
say
five.
2004. Yeah. Okay. Let's. So now it's time to check. 2002.
Yeah,
Even
I guess
older. Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I didn't play the game until a couple years later. I mean, I think I was kind of late, not really late to the game with the GameCube. I didn't buy like launch day or anything, but I did.
Mm-hmm.
I bought it like a year after it came out or something like that, so I could play Wind Waker. I think. I can't remember if Wind Waker was no GameCube had the launch title was Luigi's Mansion, and Wind Waker came out later, right?
Much
So,
later, yeah, because I know it's 2002 because I was still in my first apartment in Seattle when I played Eternal Darkness,
okay.
which would that had to have been 2002, early 2002. Yeah, June. Okay, mid 2002. And then I moved into my second apartment, and then by that point Jason moved out. So Wind Waker came out in 2004, 2005, somewhere around there. So let's
Mhm.
see. Wind Waker. Oh wow, 2002. Man, okay, my memory's starting to go a little bit. It came out that same year. That's
It did.
crazy.
It
So
felt
I'm
like it came out much later. See, I didn't. I
yeah, I
feel
must have just moved out of my first apartment then. Huh. Interesting. Very interesting. Anyway, yeah.
well. I mean, but yeah. As far as scary out of the box kind of games, though, yeah, Darkness is that definitely left its mark, and it's funny how it's not been emulated to the same degree where you're thinking the controller's wonky or you're asking WTF a lot,
Yeah.
when you're playing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's pretty cool for what it did. Now I never played. Did you say Amnesia? Was that the one that has the hide and seek
Amnesia.
aspect?
Yeah. Yeah.
I have it. I have it on my Steam account, but I've not played it yet. I'm not. I mean, I'm debating when I will get around to it. Partly because of anxiety, because I don't want to be too scared.
I think it'll be. I think it's less scary than you think it is. I don't find it. I didn't find it scary. It was just. It was the tension of oh cripe. If I don't find a hiding place, I'm gonna have to replay this checkpoint.
Oh,
That was always the my problem with all of those types of games. Is that I'm not really scared of the monster. I'm scared of having to replay something I had just played. Right? Like,
uh,
it's like no, I don't want to play this again. I don't want to. Oh crap.
yeah.
And ultimately got to the point where it's like maybe I just don't like this gameplay mechanic, and I stopped. I stopped playing those games.
So, did you ever play Slender Man?
No, I mean I've seen it, but no, I've never played it. And
I mean,
it's the same kind of
it's the
thing, right?
one note,
Yeah, yeah.
but it is kind of it does get you kind of it does get you kind of jittery. I mean, like I said, I'm easily amused, I guess, but it's not. I wouldn't call it like a class. The funny thing is, I mean, it kind of got into the zeitgeist a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
It's not bad for
Well,
how simple the game it was,
yeah, it really did. I mean, it was weird that Slender Man made it into the zeitgeist at all, quite frankly. I mean, it
Yeah,
started as like a creepy pasta on something awful, I think, right?
yeah.
And it took on a life of its own. It was just so weird. I don't know the full history, but it was a something awful post, I think. Um, Part of their Photoshop Friday thing that they
Oh,
used to do back in the day. Back when it was still, if someone could do good Photoshop work, it was impressive. Now, I mean, it's just whatever. But
yeah.
and someone submitted this doctored photo from like the 30s with this just creepy guy in the background. If memory serves, he didn't even provide any real commentary, just some sort of kind of really abstract caption that sort of implied that there was something weird about the photo.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that could be wrong now. It's been so long, but yeah, but then like it was so well done, even though everybody knew it was fake, it kind of took on a life of its own, and you had all of these people making Slenderman um, pictures.
Huh. I
Uh,
didn't know that's the origin of it. That's really funny. So
yeah.
the game came out post these Photoshop Friday things?
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah. Slenderman existed way before the game.
oh, I didn't know that. I
Mm-hmm.
thought it was just about the game. I thought, yeah, that's crazy. Huh. So this weird mannequin looking guy was in these photos. They just photoshopped him in there and
Yeah, yeah. It's just this mannequin-looking guy that some Photoshop expert doctored and posted. I'm pretty sure it was on Something Awful's Photoshop Friday thing, and
wow.
it just kind of took on a life of its own.
That's really funny. Yeah.
So again, my memory might be a little bit hazy on the details, but I know that Slender Man existed before the game came out.
Hmm. Wow. Trip.
Yeah. So anyway, um, yeah, you're really testing my
I know.
onboard memory right now.
Yes, I
We're,
am.
we're doing some we're doing some deep dives right now.
Yeah. I was gonna see. With it being Halloween, I was gonna. I mean, I gave Bane a shot for a little while. I'll get
Mm-hmm.
back to, but I think I may have to play Friday the 13th before I go to bed tonight, just to celebrate Halloween correctly. That's my favorite. It's my favorite horror game because it makes me laugh out loud.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I still need to give that a go.
Yeah.
I don't remember if I bought it or not. We've been threatening to play it together since forever.
Yeah, because
Um,
it's so janky and it's so it's put together with bubblegum, duct tape, and shoestring. Shoestring. It
hmm
feels like that when you play it, but that's what makes it so funny to play too. And it's just I don't know if they fixed. I'm sure they fixed a lot of bugs now. I mean, it's been a year and a half since I played it, or so. 2 years, probably longer than that. But yeah, but yeah, it always makes me laugh, either from a technical standpoint because of just how people can take advantage of bugs, in the game, or just how gratuitously violent it is, because it takes inspiration from all the movies,
hmm
So
hmm
yeah, but that's probably what I'll be doing for a horror game to properly celebrate tonight. Definitely not with that mask, that's for sure.
No, I feel like that would just be an unnecessary self-imposed difficulty level.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, I will probably play a Bayonetta 3 a little bit more before I go to bed. Finish off this
Mhm.
next chapter,
Mhm.
and see where it goes from there.
Cool. Well, I think we're in a pretty good spot for tonight.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. We've been going for a good 40 minutes. That's not bad. That's not bad. So you want to fill us in on where you are before we close up shop for the
Yeah.
evening?
So this is I'm working on a scene here where Mitchell actually is going to be pouring a smoothie out for Calamity Jane. It looks really messy right now, but it'll get cleaned up later.
Mm-hmm.
But make sure to save. But yeah, the main pose I got tonight though was right here, right there.
Mm-hmm.
The diving down into the depths of his bar to get the smoothie up and running.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So about closing half tonight. Let's just chatting it up.
Cool. Very cool. Well, um, I will not be doing a movie night next week, and I don't think, James, you have anything on the docket either. So we
No.
will be back next week at our usual time. Please consider heading over to calamityjane.rocks. That'll take you to our Patreon site. Consider becoming a member and supporting us on this crazy journey to make the game. We've got a couple of subscribers, so you won't be alone. Otherwise, you can check us out on Facebook, which is where we post all our updates about the show. Mostly right now, at least, it's just we post the latest stream there. And also, we do this live, so consider joining us on this adventure in real time sometimes. We do actually read your comments, and we will talk about them on the stream. And then last but not least, head over to Twitter and take a look at Jane Salamander. That's our Twitter page. We do a series of 3 tweet stories every week. This week's I'm particularly excited about because it's making fun of one of my life's passions. So you'll just have to tune in and see what one of my life's passions is, although you almost certainly know what it is if you've watched any episodes of the stream. Anyway, we do that as well, so that's mostly our social media presence in general. But thanks again, whether you're watching this in real time or in sometime in the future. We'll be back next week. Have a good night out there, everybody. Stay safe. See you soon. Bye.
Good night.